I've never felt power like this before.
Yes! X-Men Apocalypse! Yeah, usually I'm all like, oh, I haven't seen this, I haven't seen that, so I can't comment on that, especially when I do video games. I have seen every X-Men film more than once. This is my franchise. This is my home. But as you guys know, I never read comics because comics are for nerds, so I can't say, like, accuracy. The movie opens up really, really well. It's a scene with Apocalypse, like, way back in Egypt times. You know, we have an Egypt now, but this is Egypt times, you know? So what Apocalypse can do is take over bodies to keep, you know, living, because eventually his bodies will die and run out. But Apocalypse, what makes Apocalypse special is that he can absorb the powers and the body of another X-Men. So he can just kind of collect and add new powers. Kind of like Kirby, except all of them at once. And I love Xavier's little opening monologue, and he's like, give them the greatest gifts of all, and, well, they'll think they're meant to rule the world. And I was really surprised how violent this movie was for PG-13. There's that mutant that turns a guy into a pretzel and throws him against the wall. People are getting squished by giant blocks. And people are like getting the skin melted off of him. It's awesome, especially with the Wolverine part later, where he's just blood going everywhere. And then the camera's like zooming through the rocks towards the light. I'm like, oh, are we gonna get another? It's like, BAM! 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 Oh, I love that opening tunnel sequence. That song is cool. It's like X-Men. Yeah, I like that. Now, I have to look back and see if there was one in X-Men 2. I think there was. But it was very clearly Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, so, and any X-Men movies coming forward now would have to do it now. Bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. And even before that, just when they do the 20th Century Fox logo, it's like dun 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 dun, 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 bam, and you see the X just last a little bit longer than everything else. After the opening scene and the little credits crawl, the movie does slow down a bit, and this is where everybody else just checks out and says the movie's garbage. Man, I pity them. It does a kind of Batman v Superman thing where it jumps to a lot of locations and starts a lot of things but doesn't really go into any of them. And the reason this feels so slow is because Angel, Psylocke, and Storm are all duds. Like, they're henchmen. They're not characters, they're henchmen. I'm sure Storm will matter later in X-Men movies, but right now she doesn't. Now, I was okay with that because the three new good guys we got, Scott, Jean, and Nightcrawler, were all great. The CIA agent from First Class comes back. That's the other thing. This movie pulls from a lot more than just Days of Future Past. This pulls from First Class. This pulls from X-Men 2. That might be why people had a hard time with this movie, because it really does pull from, like, everything else. You have to see all the X-Men movies to appreciate it. You know, in First Class, the CIA agent was, like, doing stuff with them, but here she's kind of a ditz, and she's kind of unimportant, because she's like, oh, this place seems strangely familiar. Huh. And her hair and, like, the shirt she wears in Egypt is just so ugly. That outfit just, When she had long hair and it was, like, back in a ponytail, even in a flight suit, she looked way better than that. And Xavier, too. You can see, like, the texture on his coat is just so old and gross, and his hair is so, But that's what you get with the 80s, I guess. The 70s looked fine. Everyone was in brown leather coats, and Wolverine had his hair all... That was aesthetically pleasing. Apocalypse himself, I love. Oscar Isaac does fantastically. It's nice to finally have a new villain, because think really, in virtually every other X-Men movie, First Class aside, the villain was Magneto. It was always Magneto, and it's nice to finally have a new villain. Even if his motives are kind of the same as Magneto, you know, like mutant empowerment and all that. People thought that the fact that he was kind of short, like, took away from how menacing he was. That didn't bother me at all. He sounded cool, he looked cool, like the expressions on his face, his acting's fantastic. The speeches and the dialogue he gives, the way he talks is so old-fashioned. You like, he really believes himself to be a god. And with the powers that he's got, it's not that far-fetched of a theory.
Like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. You got that one from the Bible.
Or the Bible got it from him.
blasphemy!
The movie's reason for Apocalypse to wake up and start, like, doing stuff is kind of weak. It's just the sun touches his pyramid. It's like, that never happened when the guys were just going down there. So essentially, this is all that CIA agent's fault for dicking around where she shouldn't be. And like I said, the movie has a bit of a slow start. But after that, it jumps from fantastic scene to fantastic scene to fantastic scene. And it starts with Magneto. People are like, oh, the forest scene was so good. And I absolutely agree. It's a fantastic scene. But before that, in the factory, Magneto saves a guy. That's unheard of. And you just see him like, oh, just like instinctively catch. Magneto. Magneto saved a human being. That's nuts! That was awesome! That was like, this is a new guy! Magneto is really trying to be a good guy here. He has done nothing wrong this whole time. So when his family gets taken away from him and everything, he's just like, your way doesn't work, Charles. I've tried it. I totally bought that. Michael Fassbender's acting is fantastic in this movie. The dude kills it. McAvoy was the shining star of Days of Future Past. Here, it's Fassbender. And right after that, Apocalypse shows up and takes him to Auschwitz. And he's like, you'll find you can move the very earth itself. And he's just like reaching in, and just all these plumes of magnetism are coming around, and the music's getting on 10s, and Apocalypse just like, everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one! I love the effects on his voice. And then like immediately after that, Xavier looks into Cerebro and finds him, and they talk. And then Apocalypse like senses it and hacks into Cerebro, and then the classical music starts playing, and he's like, I have control of everybody right now, and he just launches all the nukes. That is another just fantastic scene. And his monologue is perfect. He's like, no more swords, no more weapons, no more superpowers. And you just see all the nukes coming up, and they're like, fucking shit. And Xavier's like, shit, destroy, break everything. And then this theme comes on again, and it's like, ba 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 ba. And he's like, you can build your towers of Babel, but you cannot strike God! That was cool. Let me turn the mic away and try that again, just in case. You can fire your arrows from your towers of Babel, but you cannot strike God! I'm sorry, that probably maxed out my mic, but it's so cool! And then immediately after that, they teleport into the mansion, take Xavier, and Havoc shoots at the jet, and the fire catches in slow motion. We're like, oh shit. And then it shows the bee in slow motion. And at that point, like, I didn't see the fact that it was a Quicksilver scene coming until he walked out, and Sweet Dreams was like, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, alright, here it comes. And it's a fantastic scene. It's visually very impressive. It's funny. And as he's saving people, he's like drinking their sodas and messing with everybody. It's so good. And after that, Stryker shows up and takes him to whatever the name of the prison place is. I'm sure in terms of X-Men lore, it's like a really famous name. I can't remember what it is. And I'm like, oh, here comes the Wolverine scene. And then Wolverine shows up and just kills everyone. And it's great. And if you've seen the other X-Men movies, you'll know how, like, historically important that is in terms of the X-Men lore. And then Magneto starts breaking the world, and they go to Egypt. And then when they're all on the jet, and they're, like, actually X-Men, and they're going to, like, on a mission, and it just shows, like, the plane perspective, seeing all this shit go flying everywhere, and you see, like, you get it. Like, these are kids. They're scared out of their minds right now. So I really get when they look up to J-Law for guidance and stuff. Now, the flip side of that, somebody on this production team seems to think that Jennifer Lawrence can give speeches, and that person is wrong. So it's not Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique that I mind, it's the fact that they keep giving her speeches. It happened in Mockingjay, it happened now, and it's like, stop it! She's not good at it! So when they go to a little magic bubble to talk to Magneto, again, I get Magneto's change of heart here, but I don't get that it was convinced from Mystique, because it was such a lame speech. James McAvoy in Days of Future Past, he's the one who gives the really good speeches trying to get people back on their feet. Mystique, she just can't do that. I really like Hank McCoy too. I forgot to mention him earlier when they're just walking around with new students in the X-Mansion. He's like making the glasses for Cyclops, and when he's in beast mode, he's like grabbing and saving everybody while Magneto's got Apocalypse distracted. Something I don't understand though is that Apocalypse's powers are kind of confusing and they're not all that well portrayed. Here's what I understand. He can manipulate solid matter. solid, non-organic matter. Because when he's killing people and they're falling to the floor, what he's doing is he's moving, like, the dust out of the way and then trapping them in it. So he doesn't actually, like, take people and split them apart. He just does that with other matter nearby. He's also the one teleporting around. It was a purple bubble, and at first I thought it might be Psylocke, but it's not. It's Apocalypse, because he does that in the tomb by himself. So he can teleport around, and he can do his body absorb trick where he takes somebody else's powers. So he's got the regeneration, he can block mines. He's like, I've acquired all these gifts from all these different mutants over time, so like, he should be nigh unstoppable. And it's nice when Apocalypse finally comes out to play, because up until then, he's been using the little henchman, which at the end of the day is like, Magneto and Apocalypse are the only ones that matter. Or so Storm, Psylocke, and Angel are just, why do you even need them? But when Storm and Cyclops are like caught in their little beam battle, and Magneto and Apocalypse are caught in the little beam battle, and they play the X-Men theme, kind of reminded me of Age of Ultron, where Iron Man, Thor, and Vision are all, like, throwing beams at Ultron. So, at the end of the day, this really is a team effort. It's like, everybody has to fight him physically while Xavier and Jean fight him in his mind. And then they're a match for Apocalypse. That I buy, that I get. The sound design of this movie is also great. The little, like, beam sounds that they make when Cyclops' eye lasers are going around, they sound really good. And when Xavier's starting to lose the mind battle, and he's like, Jean, help me, and he's channeling some Emperor Palpatine there, he's like, unleash your power! Unlimited power! And Jean just starts walking through the mind like, oh my god, oh my, if she turns into a bird, I am gonna... That was so f***ing cool! Bryan Singer finally got his damn Phoenix Saga after like 10 years! Oh my god, that was so satisfying! That was such a, like, full circle X-Men, officially all the problems wiped away. And when they, like, say that, like, when they see Return of the Jedi and they're like, oh, the third one's always the worst, that was great too. Am I crying right now? That was amazing. What a damn good movie. It doesn't have as much plot depth as Days of Future Past, but it has just as much character depth as Days of Future Past. And it's not quite as clean the whole way through, but the highs it hits are just as high, if not higher. I'm giving X-Men Apocalypse a very confident 9 out of 10. And I cannot freaking wait for R-rated Wolverine 3 with Patrick Stewart and Liev Schreiber next year. It's gonna be awesome.